I'm Capital Television's Dave Barber, and if you've spent any time in the Ocean State, you certainly recognize this backdrop. Of course, that's the world-famous Narragansett Public Beach. And today we're in South County, and we'll be joined by Chairman David Caprio, and we'll visit a couple of special spots here in Narragansett and South County. I think you'll find it interesting, and I hope you find it informative.
Johnny Cake Center's been around since 1973, and our main role is to provide food and clothing and household goods to folks in our community that can't afford to take care of those things.
Now, the term Johnny Cake goes back to colonial times, right? It was the Johnny Cake meal. What do you know about the history?
I know a little bit because we just were down at Kenyon's over the weekend for an event there, and my understanding that was a staple during the colonial days that folks would use. And my understanding is that the founding mothers, there were 4 of them, and they named it that for that purpose.
Also today we're joined by Chairman David Caprio, who is the state representative in this area. And unfortunately, Chairman, the need for a place like this in recent years has really increased. What kind of a role does it serve here in your community?
Dave, you hit it right on the head. The need has increased not only in South County but around the state and the country. And thankfully we have Susan and the center here who has really stepped up to try to fill that need as best as they can with the very modernized kitchen that we're standing in now, and also many other services that they provide to our community. And she's really been able to consolidate those that want to participate on the giving side to provide for the increased need on the people who, our neighbors here that are going through some difficult times and really need the services that the Johnny Cake Center provides.
And I know, too, as a volunteer and as a fundraiser, this is something that you've taken a personal interest in. And again, I think that with our economy, and again, depending on what expert you believe, we may or may not have bottomed out yet, the need's going to continue to remain strong.
And thankfully, we have the Johnny Cake Center here as a good check against that need. Susan will get into a lot of the statistics and the increased services that they have provided over the recent years. And they're doing their best to keep up and really provide not only basic needs such as food and clothing, but really branching out into the community and providing other services and needs that those that are in need are asking for.
Now, Susan, do you just at this particular time service families and individuals that live in South County? Who can come here and take advantage of this program?
Well, we primarily are serving the towns of South Kingstown and Narragansett. What we do is anyone that shows up that needs food, we're going to assess what town they're from, because we have a number of food pantries throughout the state. We have a big one in Charlestown. We have another one, Johnny Cake, down in Westerly. So we're going to, ask those folks to go to their particular food pantry. We will help them on an emergency basis, but primarily South Kingstown and Narragansett.
Now, I know the place is bustling with activity today. I see a lot of folks that are here taking advantage of this program. I'm sure you keep accurate numbers as to how many people you serve. What's happened in recent years here at the Johnny Cake Center? How many families are you dealing with each and every year here?
Well, the need has dramatically increased. It's doubled within the last 2 years. We currently have about 1,700 families that are registered for services. About probably 600 a month use those services on every single month, getting food from us. And just to kind of go back and look at a history of 5 years ago, well, the amount of food that we would distribute out of here has gone from a yearly basis, what we used to provide, to we're doing that now on a monthly basis. So the increase is really dramatic.
Chairman Caprio, you hosted an event, I know, at your home at holiday time to raise money for the Johnny Cake Center. What first motivated you? How did you first learn about it? And why did you choose to volunteer?
Well, the Johnny Cake Center is very well known in South County. At church on Sunday, there's a basket for food for the Johnny Cake Center, and the great work that they do is very well known. A few years ago, I did a Christmas open house. Actually, I think it was last year, Christmas open house. And I asked people to bring a donation for the Johnny Cake Center. So because of what Susan said, their purchasing ability is much greater, and it's easier for them to organize their stock and their purchases if they can just purchase it from the food bank rather than rather than having to try to categorize random donations. Although I'm sure they're very grateful for the donations, it just makes it much more efficient for them to be able to control their stock here much easier. So we raised some money, and I believe it purchased several tons of food from the Rhode Island Food Bank, which I know went to very people that really had a need for it, and hopefully helped them get through the holiday season back then, at a time where if you're having a tough time, is exponentially exponentially worse when you see in the middle of a holiday season.
Now, Susan, in retailing, they call it soft goods, the clothing items that you also offer. What is your most efficient mechanism for getting those kinds of items? What type of items are you always looking for, and how can people donate?
Well, definitely clothing, and it has to be seasonal because it's difficult for us to store winter coats in August. So any kind of clothing. We are definitely looking for small furniture right now because when we moved our food pantry, we opened up a furniture section, and that brings in a lot more money sometimes than a couple of books or whatever that we might be able to sell. The store is a very big source of our income. We not only has a twofold mission. It's providing the income, and then it's also we're giving that stuff away to people that need it.
When you say small furniture, can you be more specific?
Sure, bureaus, nightstands, tables, chairs, that kind of stuff.
So if someone has some good condition used furniture, let's say, they bring it to your store, is it something that a citizen can get a tax donation for if they turn in some type of merchandise that you're able to turn around and sell and raise money?
Absolutely. We give a tax donation for every donation that comes in, whether it's cash, if it's a can of soup, or if it's a sweater or any piece of furniture. So everyone that comes in is entitled to get that. What you're seeing is the Johnny Cake Center's retail thrift store, which dates back to the original history when the founding mothers used to hold yard sales up at Peacedale Congregational Church, and that's how they were able to raise money to help out those that needed it, and then they gave away stuff. And right now this is the new remodeled store after the flood. So we've got a new floor, we've got paint, and we're just now opened yesterday after 3 weeks being closed. Most of our items are all priced, like all the shorts are the same price, all dresses, and so a particular dress, we have a shopping list up there that's generic, and I believe they're $6. And so $6 will buy, 60 pounds of food or whatever.
And somebody gets a heck of a deal on a very attractive lady's dress.
You'd be surprised at the stuff that comes in here. Every day it's different, so it's a great place to shop.
People who qualify for the food services also, they have a different arrangement here also, correct?
They do. They have a card that's given to them that has a dollar amount on it, and they shop in the store, they bring it to the clerk, and it gets punched out with what they've spent for. Every 6 months they can get a clothing card, is what we call it. And that allows them to shop with dignity, and then maybe we don't have a size that they need that day, but they can come back another day. And last year we did about $30,000 worth of free clothing that went out of here for people in need.
We continue our day in South County, specifically now in Narragansett, and Chairman Caprio, you've brought us to some interesting places today, some people that do noble work in providing foodstuffs for the needy here in South County. And now you're bringing us to another interesting spot. I'll let you do the honors and tell us exactly what we're going to see today.
Well, we're going to see the wonderful history of South County and Rhode Island here at the South County Museum. Over 20,000 artifacts, fantastically organized, and you really get a view as to what life was like in centuries past here in Rhode Island. The difficulty and the effort that it took just for basic survival and basic existence, from farming to printing presses to livestock. And Jim Carruthers is going to give us a wonderful tour of all the great artifacts they have here at the South County Museum.
Yes, Executive Director Carruthers, this is my first visit here, and this is quite a place. It's sprawling, too. You have 7 acres of property here.
We do. We have 7 acres. We have 8 exhibit buildings. And in addition to that, we also have the approximately 174 acres of Canonchit Farm, which surrounds the museum and which we lease from the town of Narragansett. So it's a perfect setup.
And I know, too, for families that enjoy history and families that want to improve their learning curve about Rhode Island, this is a museum that you can come to, and it's pretty affordable.
It's definitely affordable. It's $5 for adults, $4 for seniors, and 6 to 12, it's only $2. and they have free run of the property. It's not one of those where it's closely guarded or you don't have security guards looking over your corner. We encourage a police touch policy with children. If you were to go in our main building, we want kids to touch things that may be 200 years old.
And I know, Chairman, you said they had something special here with the Rhode Island Reds not long ago that was pretty special that kids seem to enjoy.
Yes, I came to the hatching of the chicks, and they have a whole event around it, and the kids are encouraged to come and touch the chicks and pick them up, and it really was amazing to see the interaction between the children and the little baby chicks, parents trying to take their pictures while they're doing it, and just the absolute amazement in the children's eyes as they were doing it. But this is really, it's a very interactional museum. Jim and the whole staff here were way ahead of their time in really encouraging children and visitors to interact with the exhibits, to touch them. I remember coming to the museum, not in this location, but when it was at a different location, and they actually let us take the combs with the wool and see how difficult it was to comb the wool back in the colonial times, and to get a sense of really what it was like not only the wonderful history that we have, but what it was really like to live in those times. And Jim and his staff at the museum here do a great job in still providing a wonderful experience for families and children to come to really get a first-hand experience of what it must have been like.
And Jim, is it really a tribute to Rhode Island agriculture and the agricultural history of Rhode Island?
Well, it's a tribute to the agriculture, but you have to remember that if you lived in South County in the 1700s or the 1800s, you were probably a farmer, but you were also probably a fisherman. And then some people had small businesses in the communities of Wakefield or Torrey Hill in that area. So we try to emphasize the whole scope, the fishing, the farming, and then the small businessman who would have, like the blacksmith shop that's over my shoulder, that kept this together as a community.
Now, I know this is a little unfair. It's like asking, which one of your children do you like best? But you have, I think you said 7 buildings. What's your favorite feature of the museum? What's the one thing you never get tired of looking at?
Well, I started here as a volunteer in the late 80s in the blacksmith shop. That's where I learned blacksmithing. So that's where I always go back to. If I have a little bit of free time, or when we have an event, usually that's where I'll be working, is in the blacksmith shop. I find it fascinating.
Now, you've been in this location a few years now, but the museum itself has been around for quite some time.
Right. It was founded in 1933 by basically people who had grandparents down in this area where they used to travel down as kids, and they would be able to play, fish, farm, whatever the case might have been. And so in the 30s, with the advent of the automobile, Routes 1 and Routes 2 that now had macadam, they saw the way of life sort of disappearing. So they started collecting things, put them in a barn in Wickford, and then moved to western North Kingstown to the Scrabbletown area. And then when that property was taken to put in Route 4, the museum settled here in 1985.
Jim, somebody watching right now might say, well, yeah, the South County Museum is really cool, but I did that 2 summers ago. Do you get the displays and the artifacts and the memorabilia? Does it switch off a lot so that the exhibits are changing?
It does. It changes every year, even within the course of a season. It will change. For instance, this year we started with uniforms, and our focus was on Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, since this is the 100th anniversary of the Scouts. Then we added to that with dresses that ladies would wear to weddings and purses they might carry in the 1920s. 2 weeks ago we just opened up an exhibit on sandwich glass and New England glass making. All of that will disappear when we close in October, and we'll start a brand new cycle for next year. We already have our themes picked out